Hey there, welcome back to the channel. Have you ever heard the name Albert Einstein and wondered what made him so brilliant? Well, get ready, because today's story is not just about science or big ideas. It's about a curious boy who didn't speak until he was almost 3. A young man who failed, struggled, and got rejected over and over, but never gave up. This is a story about how one person's curiosity and courage changed the world. And guess what? While we explore his incredible life, you'll also improve your English listening skills. At the same time, in this video, we're diving into the inspiring life of Albert Einstein. But this isn't just a history lesson, it's also a powerful English learning experience. As you listen to the story, you'll discover how a quiet little boy with a big imagination grew up to become one of the greatest minds in human history. From his childhood struggles to his world-changing discoveries, you'll hear it all in simple, clear English. The main goal of this video is to help you improve your English listening skills. You'll also pick up useful vocabulary, natural sentence structure, and new expressions. And if you want to level up your speaking skills, try shadowing. Repeat each sentence after me, match my tone, rhythm, and pronunciation. That's one of the best ways to build fluency and sound more like a native speaker. So before we begin, grab a notebook, sit back, and get ready to learn. Take notes of new words. Mark your favorite phrases, and feel free to pause and rewind anytime you need. If you're excited to learn and grow today, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to ring the bell so you never miss another inspiring story or English practice session. Now let's begin our journey into the life of Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein was born on March 14th, 1879, in a small town called Ulm in Germany. From the very beginning, he didn't seem like a future genius. In fact, when he was born, his parents were a bit worried. His head was unusually large, and for a while, they wondered if something might be wrong. But little did they know that this baby, with the big head and quiet eyes, would grow up to change the world. Albert's father, Hermann Einstein, was a businessman who worked with electrical equipment. He wasn't rich, but he worked hard to support his family. Albert's mother, Pauline, was a warm, caring woman who had a deep love for music. She played the piano and filled their home with beautiful melodies. Pauline hoped that her children would also learn to love music, and later she encouraged Albert to play the violin, something that would stay with him his entire life. As a young child, Albert was different. He didn't speak his first words until he was nearly 3 years old. His family became concerned. Why wasn't he talking like other kids his age? They even gave him a nickname, the quiet one. He would often sit in silence, just watching the world around him. But Albert wasn't slow or shy. He was simply thinking. Deep down, his mind was always working, always asking silent questions. While other children were running around and playing games, Albert was focused on how things worked. He would look at objects and wonder, why does this happen? Or, how does this work? Even though he wasn't speaking much, his mind was already full of ideas. This quiet little boy with his curious eyes and big imagination was just getting started. And soon, one small gift from his father would spark a lifelong passion for science. When Albert Einstein was just 5 years old, something small changed his life in a big way. One day, his father gave him a simple gift, a small magnetic compass. At first, it looked like just an ordinary object. But as Albert held it in his tiny hands, he noticed something strange. No matter how he turned the compass, the needle always pointed in the same direction, north. Albert was fascinated. How could that be possible? There were no strings, no hands moving the needle, no one controlling it. Yet the needle moved with purpose. It seemed like magic. But Albert didn't believe in magic. He believed in finding answers. He couldn't stop thinking about it. He stared at the compass for hours, trying to understand what made it work. This was the moment he first realized that there were invisible forces in the world. Things you couldn't see, but were still real. It sparked his curiosity in a way that nothing else ever had. Albert later said that this tiny compass left a deep and lasting impression on him. It opened his mind to the idea that the world was full of mysteries waiting to be discovered. That compass wasn't just a toy. It was the beginning of a lifelong journey of questions, wonder, and discovery. For young Albert, that simple spinning needle became a symbol of something much bigger, the unseen forces that shape our world and the power of curiosity to uncover them. Albert Einstein didn't enjoy school like most children. In fact, he struggled a lot. The schools he attended were very strict. Teachers expected students to memorize facts, sit still, and never question the lessons. But Albert was different. He didn't want to memorize. He wanted to understand. He loved asking questions, thinking deeply, and exploring ideas. His teachers didn't like that. One teacher even told him, "You'll never be successful in life." Those words were hurtful, but Albert didn't let them stop him. Even though school was tough, Albert found comfort in the things he loved. His favorite subject was math. He called it the language of the universe. Solving problems was like solving fun puzzles, and numbers made sense when the world didn't. His uncle Jacob noticed Albert's talent and taught him math in a fun and creative way. Instead of boring lectures, they treated each math problem like a treasure hunt, with each step leading to a new discovery. That made Albert fall in love with learning even more. At the same time, Albert's mother, Pauline, encouraged his love for music. She asked him to learn the violin. At first, Albert didn't like practicing, but over time, playing music helped him relax and think clearly. The violin became his escape and a way to organize his thoughts. So, even though school was a challenge, Albert's love for math, support from his family, and the power of music helped him stay curious, creative, and hopeful for the future. Even as a teenager, Albert Einstein was full of deep, unusual questions. He often imagined things most people never thought about. One of the biggest questions that stayed with him was, what would it be like to ride on a beam of light? He wondered how light really worked and how time and space were connected. These thoughts weren't just daydreams. They were the beginning of his scientific journey. But school didn't help him explore these ideas. The strict system, full of rules and memorization, didn't fit his creative and curious mind. Eventually, Albert decided to leave school early. Many people saw this as a huge mistake. Without a diploma, how could he succeed? But Albert believed something more important. He believed in learning for the sake of knowledge not just to pass tests. After leaving school, he studied on his own. He read books on math, science, and philosophy, teaching himself what he wanted to know. At just 16 years old, he even wrote his first scientific paper. It wasn't perfect, but it showed his incredible thinking skills and passion for discovery. When he was 17, Albert tried to enter the Swiss Federal Polytechnic School in Zurich, a very prestigious university. Unfortunately, he failed the entrance exam. His scores in math and science were strong, but he didn't do well in subjects like French and history. Still, Albert didn't give up. He took the time to improve in the areas where he was weak and promised himself he would try again. This experience taught Albert an important lesson. Failure is not the end. It's just a step on the path to success. His determination and love for learning pushed him forward. He knew that even if the world didn't understand him yet, one day his ideas could make a difference, and he was ready to keep trying until they did. Albert Einstein eventually passed the entrance exam and was accepted into the Swiss Federal Polytechnic School in Zurich. He was excited to finally study in a place that encouraged free thinking. At the university, Albert focused on mathematics and physics, his favorite subjects. He loved solving complex problems and exploring scientific theories. However, he didn't enjoy other subjects like literature or languages, and often skipped those classes. His professors sometimes found him difficult because he didn't always follow the traditional way of learning. During his time at the university, Albert met someone who would change his life, Mileva Maric. She was the only woman in his physics class, and just like Albert, she was passionate about science. They spent hours discussing theories and sharing ideas. Over time, their friendship turned into love. Although their relationship faced challenges, especially with Mileva being a woman in a male-dominated field, they supported each other through it all. After graduating in 1900 with a degree in physics, Albert struggled to find a job in his field. Many universities didn't want to hire him, partly because some of his professors didn't recommend him. It was a tough time, especially since he and Mileva had started a family and welcomed their first son, Hans Albert. To support them, Albert took a job at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern in 1902. His job was to review new invention applications, not exactly the work he had dreamed of. But Albert made the best of it. He used his free time to think deeply about science. In fact, it was during his years at the patent office that some of his most groundbreaking ideas began to form. Even though life was hard, Albert never gave up on his passion for discovery or on the love he shared with Mileva. Even though Albert Einstein was working a full-time job at the Swiss Patent Office, he never gave up on his love for science. During the day, he reviewed patent applications, but in his free time, late at night and early in the morning, he was deep in thought, scribbling equations and exploring ideas about how the universe works. His tiny office in Bern became his personal thinking lab. And then came the year that changed everything. In 1905, at just 26 years old, Einstein published 4 scientific papers that would revolutionize the world of physics. Scientists now call it his annus mirabilis, or miracle year. The first paper was on the photoelectric effect, where Einstein explained how light can behave like tiny particles called photons. This discovery wasn't just groundbreaking. It later earned him the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1921. The second paper explained Brownian motion, helping to prove the physical existence of atoms, something that was still debated at the time. This helped scientists better understand the hidden world of molecules and particles. But perhaps the most famous was his third paper, The Special Theory of Relativity. In it, Einstein introduced a radical idea that space and time are not absolute, but are connected and can change depending on how fast you're moving. And then came the equation that would make him a household name: E equals mc squared. This formula showed that energy and mass are two forms of the same thing, and that a small amount of mass can be converted into a huge amount of energy. It was a concept that would later influence the development of nuclear power. These 4 papers weren't just impressive, they completely transformed modern science. And they didn't come from a top university professor, but from a young man with a full-time job and no academic position. Einstein had proved that with passion, persistence, and curiosity, anyone can change the world. After publishing his groundbreaking scientific papers in 1905, Albert Einstein's life changed forever. Scientists around the world quickly took notice of his genius. Universities began offering him teaching positions, and soon he was invited to become a professor at some of Europe's top institutions. Einstein became a rising star in the world of science, but unlike many who achieve fame, he stayed humble. Despite his growing popularity, Einstein lived a simple and modest life. He didn't care much about money, luxury, or appearances. He wore plain clothes, avoided fancy dinners, and often walked instead of riding in expensive cars. Even when his face appeared in newspapers around the world, he remained focused on learning and teaching, not on fame. When people called him a genius, he would just smile and say, "I have no special talent. I am only passionately curious." In 1914, Einstein moved to Berlin, Germany, where he accepted a prestigious position at the Prussian Academy of Sciences. This job gave him freedom from teaching duties so he could focus entirely on research. For a scientist like Einstein, it was the perfect setup. Time to think, explore, and continue challenging the way we understand the universe. While the world admired him, Einstein never let success get to his head. He believed in using knowledge to help others and make the world better. Fame didn't change who he was at heart: a curious, thoughtful man with a deep love for truth. His humility made him not only respected as a scientist, but also loved as a human being. Einstein's story reminds us that real greatness isn't about showing off. It's about staying true to your values, even when the world is watching. In 1919, Albert Einstein's fame skyrocketed. That year, British scientists confirmed his general theory of relativity by observing how starlight bent during a solar eclipse, exactly as Einstein had predicted. This discovery was groundbreaking. For the first time, people realized that gravity could bend light, completely changing how we understand the universe. Overnight, Einstein became a global sensation. His name appeared in headlines across the world. Suddenly, this quiet scientist was being called a genius and even a superstar. But with fame also came challenges. Einstein was Jewish, and during this time, Anti-Semitism, discrimination against Jewish people, was rising, especially in parts of Europe. Some critics tried to dismiss his work just because of his background. Still, Einstein stayed focused on what mattered most: truth, knowledge, and human dignity. Einstein used his fame not to gain power or wealth, but to promote peace, education, and human rights. In the 1920s, he traveled across the globe, visiting the United States, Japan, Palestine, and many countries in Europe. He gave lectures, met world leaders, and inspired students and scientists wherever he went. People didn't just admire his scientific mind, they respected his values. Einstein became a strong voice for peace in a world that was heading toward war. He believed that science should be used to help people, not to harm them. He also stood up for minorities and refugees, using his voice to support those who couldn't speak for themselves. Through it all, Einstein remained humble. He once said, "I speak to everyone in the same way, whether he is the garbage man or the president of the university." His combination of brilliance, compassion, and courage made him not just a great scientist, but a true global citizen and a symbol of hope. As the world entered one of its darkest chapters, Albert Einstein faced a terrifying reality. In 1933, when Adolf Hitler rose to power in Germany, Einstein, a Jewish scientist and outspoken supporter of peace, became a target. His books were burned, his work labeled Jewish science, and his safety was in danger. Einstein made the difficult decision to flee his homeland. He moved to the United States, where he would spend the rest of his life. He settled in Princeton, New Jersey, and became a professor at the Institute for Advanced Study. Einstein continued his scientific work in Princeton, but he couldn't ignore what was happening in the world. In 1939, as World War II loomed, Einstein signed a letter to President Franklin D. Roosevelt, warning that Nazi Germany might be developing an atomic bomb. This letter played a role in the creation of the Manhattan Project, the US program to build the atomic bomb. Although Einstein didn't work directly on the bomb, his famous equation, E equals mc squared, helped lay the foundation for nuclear energy. When the bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945, Einstein was devastated. He deeply regretted his involvement, even indirectly. For the rest of his life, he spoke out against nuclear weapons and worked for peace. "Mankind invented the atomic bomb," he once said, "but no mouse would ever construct a mousetrap." Even in his final years, Einstein never stopped asking questions. He worked tirelessly to develop a unified field theory, an attempt to connect all the forces of nature in one single equation. Though he never completed this mission, his dedication showed how his passion for discovery never faded. Albert Einstein died on April 18, 1955, at the age of 76 in Princeton. But his legacy lives on, not only through his groundbreaking theories, but also through his strong voice for peace, justice, and human curiosity. He taught the world that science and humanity must go hand in hand, and that even in the darkest times, knowledge and kindness can light the way forward. Albert Einstein's life wasn't just about science, it was full of powerful lessons that still inspire millions today. One of the most important lessons we can learn from him is this: failure is not the end. It's a part of the journey to success. Einstein faced many failures throughout his life. He was told by teachers he would never succeed. He couldn't find a job after graduating. He even failed his first university entrance exam. But instead of giving up, he kept trying. These setbacks became stepping stones that pushed him to grow stronger and think deeper. Another key lesson from Einstein is to believe in yourself, even when others don't. Many people doubted his abilities or didn't understand his way of thinking. But Einstein trusted his ideas and followed his own path. He knew that approval from others is temporary, but self-belief lasts forever. His confidence in his vision led to discoveries that changed the world. Einstein also taught us that big dreams require big sacrifices. While chasing his passion for science, he gave up comfort, faced poverty, and spent countless hours working in silence. But he never gave up because his dream was bigger than any obstacle. His dedication reminds us that if we want something meaningful, we have to be willing to work hard for it. Finally, Einstein's greatest lesson may be this: true greatness doesn't come from intelligence alone. It comes from curiosity, humility, and a love for learning. Despite being one of the most brilliant minds in history, Einstein stayed humble. He once said, "I have no special talents. I am only passionately curious." He never saw himself as a genius, just as someone who kept asking questions. Einstein's life shows us that greatness isn't about being perfect. It's about staying curious, being kind, believing in yourself, and never being afraid to dream big, even if the world doesn't understand you at first. And that brings us to the end of Albert Einstein's inspiring story. From a quiet boy with a big head and slow speech to one of the most famous scientists in history, Einstein's journey teaches us so much more than science. It reminds us that failure is not the end. Curiosity is powerful, and believing in yourself can lead to incredible things. His story is a beautiful example of how persistence, passion, and humility can change the world. Now, let's take a moment to think about what you've learned today. Not just about Einstein's life, but also about your English skills. You've listened to a full story in English, picked up useful phrases, and maybe even practiced your pronunciation through shadowing. That's already a huge step forward. Learning English doesn't happen overnight, but every video, every sentence you listen to brings you one step closer to fluency. I encourage you to watch this video again. This time, focus on repeating sentences out loud or writing down new words you didn't know before. The more you listen, the better your ears and brain will get at understanding natural English. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please click the like button to let me know. It really helps the channel grow. Also, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a new story or listening practice video. Finally, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and tell me, what part of Einstein's life inspired you the most? Or which English phrase did you learn today? Your thoughts and questions are always welcome. Thank you for watching and practicing with me today. Keep listening, keep learning, and remember, every great achievement starts with a curious mind. See you in the next video.